Okay.
Well,
All
after I got acquainted with the girls, there was Ida and Ellen and Bertha and what was the other one's name? Robert, May. They were my friends.
Well, they were different ages too, right? How many you had?
Oh,
How many
Ida.
grades in one?
Ida and
One school.
I guess I'm about 9 months older than Ida.
That's Aunt
But
Ida?
yeah, but
Oh, that's how you met her? She
yeah.
went to that school?
And we've been friends all these years. But we had good times. We played we stayed all day because we took our little lunch.
Because it was a couple miles?
At least 2 miles we walked. Otley and I walked. We had no buses,
Right.
nothing like that, you know. And in the wintertime it was bitter cold. Sometimes the teachers would have to put our hands in cold water, you know, it would be so cold.
Oh, when you walked in?
Yeah.
Frostbite feeling.
If we had a nice teacher, the last teacher we had, wasn't very nice. She wouldn't bother doing that. But one teacher we had was very, very nice. And but we had it nice, and I loved it, because, well, I don't know. I guess I liked to play. I guess reason I liked it because I had no fellowship at home, no
Right.
youth at home, and then I got it when I got there. That was probably one reason why I liked it so. And in the wintertime we'd sled. We had a hill behind us, and we would all get out there and sled on that hill, or we would skate. There was a field back of us that would, well, it seemed to me, covered over, that we could slide
Right.
and skate all over it, you know.
During what? During like recess?
Recess and lunchtime.
Right.
One year I remember, that's one teacher we had, that we went out and we never went back. The whole school stayed out. They wouldn't go back.
You see what, nobody liked her?
Yes. But
Would you, if everybody, if it was a one-room schoolhouse,
one room.
so was there a different teacher almost every year, or would you
No.
have the same teacher for a couple years?
Oh
or?
yeah, we had same teachers. We had, as far as I can remember, we had the one teacher when I went there. Then we got Ida. I remember Ida. She's the one I liked so well. And then the last one I didn't like. And she wasn't much good either.
Is that the one that used to
She's the
spank
one that
people?
slapped me. She slapped me on the wrist with a
Ruler?
ruler with
Metal?
the metal. And she broke my skin open. You know, she whipped both the girl and I. We were sitting together. She allowed us to sit in the same bench. You know,
Right.
we got the permission to sit in the same bench to study a certain thing. Well, she spanked us for talking to each other. Yeah, that's a little hard not to do.
Right.
But I remember Otley. She did it after school. She didn't do it in front of the kids. She kept us after school, and then she spanked us both. And but it was only for that. We hadn't done anything else.
Right.
But he was out in the hall, and he kept hollering, "Don't you hit my sister! Don't you hit my sister!" But that doesn't make any difference to her. But she was just mean. She was mean.
Right. How about, tell me the story again that you told me yesterday about when you first went to school, the outhouse.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I first went, of course, I didn't know anything about it, and they had two little outhouses, one there and one here, and I said, which one is the girls? And they pointed to the boys and told me that was it, so of course I went to it. And I found out afterwards that it was the boys, and that was a big, it was a big laugh.
Everybody laughed for days about that.
But we had a good time. We had a fence where we could make it into a seesaw. We used to seesaw on that fence. Or we used to do these flip-flops, what do you call them?
Somersault?
Yeah, over the fence. And we had all kind of fun that we did it. recess and lunchtime.
Right.
And then sometimes we paired off. When we were younger, we paired off into families. The older boys and the older
Right.
girls were our mothers and fathers.
So everybody played together.
Yeah, we played like that together, and no, we just really had it. My father, Otley, of course, he was a little difficult, I guess, but
Because he was older he was older.
yeah, and he never got promoted. When I went there, he was ahead of me, a couple grades ahead of me. But by the time we left, I was ahead of him. Because he never got
Didn't you
promoted.
tell me something about a bridge on the way to school that he would hide and not go to school? You told me some story once about some bridge.
No, that was me.
That was you?
Yeah, no, that wasn't him, that was me. This was Ida and me. Ida and I did this. We wrote a note. To, this was the last teacher too. We wrote a note to a couple boys. We had boyfriends, just play boyfriends.
Okay.
And we wrote a note to them, and they threatened to show it to the teacher. Whether they ever did or not, I don't think they did. But they threatened to show it to the teacher. And we were afraid to go in. When we were out at, I guess, lunchtime, we were afraid to go back to school. We hid behind this little bridge and didn't go into school. And we went home. Instead of going back for that last time, we went home. Well, I can't remember whether Otley told my mother or not. But anyhow, I went back the next day, and the teacher didn't do a thing.
Was that the nice teacher?
Yeah, she didn't do a thing to me. And Ida didn't come for a couple days. She was so afraid she didn't come for a couple of days. But the teacher, I thought sure she would make trouble for us, but she didn't. Right. I don't know why. I don't know why she didn't.
Understanding teacher.
I don't know why she didn't. There was some reason why she didn't, but she didn't.
Right.
But that was it. We were hiding behind this little bridge. That was me.
Okay.
But
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. I was telling you another thing about Ida that's kind of cute.
Okay.
She was a funny little finicky thing, and her mother had bought her a pair of shoes, and she didn't like them. So from that day on, she wore rubbers over her shoes.
Every day.
To hide her shoes, she wouldn't wear her shoes without rubbers. I always remember that. Oh.
So you were back in Norristown, and when you were 16, you finished up with the schooling.
Well, that summer, I didn't intend to leave school when I was 16. I didn't intend to. But I got a job that summer with Slosher as a cashier. And I made...
And he had it was a grocery store
grocery
in Norristown?
Store in Norristown, yeah.
He had just, at the one, you said then later he had more than one.
He had 8.
8 grocery stores.
Well, he had at that time. Yeah, I don't think he had 8 at that time. I don't know how many he had when I first worked for him. But he had 8 when I did his bookkeeping. But I was his cashier down on Stanbridge Street.
Was it called Slosher's?
Slosher's.
Okay.
Just Slosher's grocery store. And it was just like a little town grocery store.
Convenience store.
Yeah. And there was another girl and I, the two of them, in the cashier's box, only that she did his bookkeeping as well as, but I did the cashiering. I made the change and that stuff.
So that started out as a summer job.
Yeah, a summer job.
When you were 16.
Yeah. And then when it came time for me to go to school, he wanted me to stay on instead of going back to school. So I could blame him, I guess, for not having an education. So he wanted me to stay as a permanent job, and I did. So I said, well, I guess I would. I was only making about, I don't know, maybe $8 a week. No more than that, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
So well, it helped because I gave it to my mother, and I said, well, I guess I would stay because Diane, I didn't have the clothes to go to high school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything like some of the other girls had. My mother couldn't give it to me, and when I was working, I would have a little bit. I mean, she was able to give me a little bit when I helped. So I said, all right. I asked her, of course, and I guess it was all right with her.
Right.
I often thought maybe I should have been encouraged by my sister to stay on.
Had she stayed?
To stay at high
Aunt
school.
Emma?
No,
No, she didn't.
no, she didn't get as much as I did. But I often think maybe she should have encouraged me to continue with high school
Right.
instead, but she didn't.
Well, who was living? Were you the only person living with your mother at that
Oh
time?
no,
or-
she was living there, and
Emma and
Otley, and Eddie. I guess Eddie was there for
So
a
at that
time till
point-
he got married. Yeah,
So then at that point, everybody was working
Yeah.
except for your mother,
yeah. My
and
mother
you were
never.
all living.
My mother never
You were all
married.
living.
They all-
What street did you live on then?
Airy Street, 923 Airy.
In Norristown.
Yeah, we rented a house there.
Right.
Paid $16 a month. I think.
$16.
Yeah, $16 a month rent. And then my mother took in boarders. She had a couple men boarders, which helped. She had Herman. Herman, he stayed with us for a long time. And I forget the other one's name.
Did either of you sew at that time? Did your mother sew? You were just talking about clothes, so I was thinking of that. Did you? Did you start sewing yet, or did your mother?
Yeah, not too much. I didn't.
You were
She
busy.
didn't sew too much. No. Mm-mm. Maybe
That's
little
something
things, but not too
You
much.
started to do that more later.
Yeah, I started. I don't know when I made my first dress. I remember making one when I lived at Emma's home on Astor Street. But I had a when I lived on Area Street, we had a woman that lived right above us that made dresses for me, and she was very reasonable. And she used to make some dresses for me.
Did you say then you worked full time for Mr. Schlosser for how many years?
13.
So beginning when you were 16 until.
Until Dorothy was born.
Okay, so then you were living in Norristown. Were you living with your mother until you got married? Or were you living on Airy Street until you got married?
Oh no. Mm-mm. No, we lived on Airy Street. I just don't remember how many years, but that place was sold and we had to get out. And there, our furniture went in for storage again. And Emma and I and Bill.
She was married.
Em and Bill were married when we lived on Airy Street.
And Uncle Bill, and he lived there too then? Or
Yeah.
they had gotten their own place?
No,
Everybody
they lived there for a short time,
Right.
but then, oh wait, let me think. The house was sold, and we had to get out, and Mama went up with Aunt Emmy. Otley was still up at
Her
Valley.
sister.
He was still up at Valley Forge. He went over to live with Aunt Lydia for a while after the farm was sold.
Right.
And Eddie, of course, was away. And Eddie was married by that time.
Right.
And
So then,
I and Emma and Bill went down to live with Nellie Young. She was a friend of ours on Astor Street. they took us in and gave us a home just for Emma and Bill were buying a home that wasn't finished. It was it was a little row of houses that were being built, and Emma and Bill was going to buy one, see, and we were all going to go there and live. But we had to have a place to go to before we got into that house. So the Youngs took Em and Bill and I in. So we lived there for a few months. I'm not sure.
While the house was being finished.
Yeah, I'm not sure just how long. But then we went to Emma's place.
And then your mom came back then?
Yes, then Mama came back. And there was Mama and Em and Bill and Otler and me living in the little house. So we didn't live there too long.
And Uncle Bill bought that house?
Uncle Bill bought the house, yeah.
That's good that he came along.
Maybe we, huh?
That was good that he came along.
Yeah. So I guess we lived there at least a year, and I wasn't very happy there. By that time, I was dating your grandfather.
Oh, then we missed something before that. That was, well, how old were you when you met Grandpa?
When I met your grandfather. Well, I was married when I was 25. And I went with him about 4 years. I guess I was 21.
But then you were engaged before.
And no.
Or
you
had someone that was...
I was engaged just a year. I was engaged a year.
To
Tip.
All right, but you had a boyfriend before Grandpa.
Oh, yeah. I had Dave. But I had him when I lived on Erie Street.
Right.
He dated me on Erie Street.
We missed that.
But
so
then Tip did, too, for a while. I had the two of them going for a while on Erie Street.
The first one was Dave. So
Dave.
you must have gone out with him from high school or something?
Well, we went to high school together, but he graduated from high school and went on to college. But he still came around, and then he went on to college. And of course, I didn't see as much of him. And then Helen and Art introduced me to your granddad one year, and I got in with him, and so I gave Dave up.
So what was Dave's last name?
McMullen.
McMullen? That's the person that gave you the lavalier?
Yeah, the one you have.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so Grandpa knew Aunt Helen and Uncle Art. That's how he met you?
Oh yes, he knew them before me.
Was he living in Norristown then?
Who? Him?
Grandpa.
Oh no, he was living in Philadelphia.
How'd they know him?
Well, he worked at Bailey Banks and Biddle.
With Uncle Art?
Yeah. Mhm. And so they brought him up to meet me one day, see, and.
What did you think the first time you met him?
Well, he was so handsome, and he was so good looking, and he was walking with a cane. It made him more.
So you found out why?
And that was when he had shot himself, you know. But and I said to him the end of that day when he said goodbye, when the day was over and he was saying goodbye, and I said, well, I said to him, I hope to see you again. And he looked at me, he said, possibly. And I thought, well, that's that.
But then he got in touch with you again?
Yeah. And then from then on, then I had a hard time with Dave. And
breaking up, you mean?
Yeah. But I had to. I could see the difference between the two of them. Dave was a nice boy and all, but he wasn't like Ted.
Right.
So
those days, everybody was working. And what did you do? I think this is when Mom said you had some of your camping trips and all those things.
Oh, yeah.
What did you used to do for fun? When you weren't working, what did you do for fun?
Well, the year that I met him, we went camping for 2 weeks, you know, up at Valley Forge again, across the river from the big station, up a little bit farther. There was Art and Helen, and Helen's brother, Walter, and his girl, and Tip and I. We had 2 weeks up there.
Who were the chaperones? Aunt Helen and Uncle Art?
No,
Because they were married?
his brother.
Oh, his brother was his girlfriend?
Helen's brother, yeah. Yeah. Well, he was older, so he was much
Right.
older than any of us. He, of course, he's dead now, and his wife is dead. And so that year, then the next year we went again, and then Emma and Bill went with us, and by that time they were married, and they were with us that year, and Nellie and her husband were with us.
So this was
No.
basically, this was the early 20s then.
Yeah, that was.
So, in terms of...
Well, now wait. I met Art. I met your grandfather, I guess, when I was 21.
That would have been 1922.
You know, it's also funny.
Since you're a year off the century.
Yeah, I married him in 26, and I know I knew him at least 4 years. That would make it 22, wouldn't it?
That's right, because you would have been 21 then.
Yeah.
1922.
Yeah, I guess that's about
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
So,
But we had, then of course we had our good vacations up at Spring Mount. And that was before that time, that was before Tip.
who did you vacation with then?
Well, again, that was Helen and Emma. We went up there a couple years for vacations, but they were just with a bunch of boys that we knew from Philadelphia. They were friends. They used to come up, how we met them, they came up the river, swimming and canoeing,
Right.
and we were friends, you know, just doing that. And they were up in Spring Mount at the same time we were. We just had a jolly good time. They had their own cabins, but we stayed in a regular place if they went out for vacation.
Right, right. So
We
you would go canoeing and swimming,
Yeah.
camp, build a fire.
Yeah, we just had a
Tell
very,
stories.
very good time. And there was one of them that I remember was a banjo player, and he was sort of after our Emma. And we just had a good time.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Oh, that's neat. Now, this we're talking about, we got up to the 20s and we sort of skipped World War One. But World War One did it have much of an impact? I mean, Grandpapa will have more to say about that, but did that have much of an impact on your life?
Yes, it did, because I had one boyfriend that was in it. In fact, I had a couple boyfriends who was in it. World War, yes. I was gone at that time with a boy by the name of Roy Henderson. We called him Pick. And he was from the river, too. He used to come up canoeing. And I dated him quite a good bit, and he went away. He enlisted in the Navy, but not exactly the Navy. What do you call it?
Not Coast Guard, Naval Reserve or something. Oh, that's okay.
Tipton now.
That's all right. That's okay.
Anyhow, he enlisted in that, and he was away. And I remember him coming back at Christmas time, or before he went away. And Helen had one too. They were friends, and they each gave us this little ring. I still have it. On the shirt. Did you ever see it?
I'm not sure. I'll look at it when we're done.
And they each gave us this little ring before they went away. And then he came back at Christmas time, and then I was still friends with him for quite a while, and then that was broken off.
Right.
And he was a salesman. He was a handsome kid, and I thought an awful lot of him. But then I got in with Dave.
Right.
I started going with Dave. But that boy was from Philadelphia,
Right.
and I didn't go with him too long, but he took me to several shows in Philadelphia, and he was very nice. I liked him.
So people were.
But that was part of the world.
They would come and go.
Yeah. Then there was another one, Harold Armitage, and he was really serious. He wanted me to become engaged to him before he went overseas. Now, he was in the Army, and he wanted me to become engaged to him before he went overseas, but I couldn't do it. I could never do it anyhow because I didn't care that much for him. I liked him as a friend, but that was it. And I told him, I said, nothing came of that.
Right, right. Well, when you were about that age, when you were working and you hadn't met Grandpop yet, what did you want for your life? Did you think, well, you'd like to find, I mean, you enjoyed working, but you really wanted to find someone and get married and have children and stop working? Is that what you had in mind? Do you remember or did you want to?
I guess so.
I mean, you enjoyed your job, working with books
Yeah.
and so forth, and so there wasn't anything more that you wished that you had done that you didn't do.
I can't say I did. I stayed at Emma's. You might know this. I stayed at Emma and Bill's only for about a year, and I could see that I wasn't happy there, living at their home. And Mr. Salter had this nice little apartment. He owned he had a store, and almost every store that he owned, he bought the property next to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were like double properties. Almost every property that he had it that way. And this way he had, on Powell Street, he had a nice property next to it. And he was making it into an apartment. He had an upstairs apartment and one down below. And he was making this into a very attractive little apartment. He put a bath in it and a kitchen and had a little back porch and a yard. And I guess I had complained to him about living at Emma's. Because, she didn't like me to use the ironing board. She didn't like this and that. There were several things that she didn't like, that I didn't feel free. And she was working, and Mama was doing the work. Mama was taking care of their house, and I just wasn't happy about it at all. And so he said to me, if you want that little apartment, you can have it. He said, I'll let you have it for $25 a month. And if you get married, he said, if you get married, then I'll raise it to 35. So $25, is very much, and I knew that I could swing it. I knew that I could. So I got thinking about it, and I thought, well, if I took that apartment, I could take my mother, and she would have it nicer. So I did. I took the apartment. And I took her, and she and I lived there in this little apartment. We had a bedroom, a living room, a nice kitchen, a little back porch, and a yard. And I lived there then until I became engaged, until I got married. I stayed there. And then Tip and I still lived there, I guess, for a couple of years. And then Mama, of course, wasn't room for her, but the woman that lived in the other part of the house, she had an extra bedroom that we rented from her for Mama. And Mama didn't have to go out of she didn't have to go out of the house, so she only had to go in the hall and up the stairs to her bedroom, which made it all right. So that's why we did it. We rented that room from her for my mother. And we lived there then till we bought our home on Market Street, where your mother was born. So that's what happened.
Because that one, the Market Street one, was being built. You had that built.
We had that one built, yeah.
So you lived in the apartment on Powell?
Powell Street,
until
yeah.
that time.
So we moved there, and I guess we moved there in 29.
So that was, also the era of the flappers.
Yeah, I guess it
Now,
would
now
be.
you told me a story about the haircuts. You were the first one to get one of those. Tell me the story about the hair.
Well, I guess I was almost the first one to get it bobbed, and then I was the first one to get, what did we call it? A shingle. I was the first one to get the shingle. You know what that was?
Yeah.
It was straight, up close to your head, you know, and
Right.
sort of. I think I was the first in our crowd. I don't mean I was the first one, but I was the first one
Right.
in our bunch to get it, because when I had it done, Emma come home and she scolded me. She said I was too forward, you know, and doing
What
things
gave you
like
the
that.
the ideas? You would see someone with it,
I guess so.
or
I
magazine,
I guess I saw a magazine. I liked it, and I went to a barber that was. I went to a barber. I didn't go to a hairdressing place. I went to a barber that was very, very good. I liked him, and he cut my hair always. And all the time I had a short haircut like that, I went to him, and he cut my hair. And I can remember that. I can remember Emma saying, "You're too." She meant I was too forward. I was too.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
I wanted to be the first in everything. But I guess I was a little different from her, maybe.
And you were younger. You were
Yeah.
almost a different generation.
Yeah, because even when I lived in Valley Ford, then I had pigtails. You know, I didn't have my hair cut. I had pigtails. And when I would come down, she lived at that time with Aunt Emmy, and
Right.
she worked and lived with Aunt Emmy. And when I'd come down, I was just a little thing, and of course she was 8 years older than me, and she'd comb my hair, and she would pull my hair back so tight that she almost pulled my eye right back. She'd pull my hair so tight and put these plaits in, you know,
Right.
and I didn't like that because she did things I didn't like. But she was always so bossy. She was always so bossy on me, but she wanted me to be right. She wanted to bring me up right, that was it. She was so afraid I'd go wrong.
What did being a flapper mean, or how did they get that? Do you know how they got that name, and what it then meant?
Mm. Well, I don't know.
Mom said something about galoshes.
Well, maybe that is, we always wore our galoshes open. We never buckled them, if you know what I mean.
Right.
We
They used to buckle over.
we wore the black ones, you know,
Right.
with the hooks,
On the
not
side.
the zipper, the
On the
hooks.
side.
And we walk around with those flapping open. I guess that's where the flapper business comes from. We didn't.
That was part of the style.
Oh yeah, that was the style.
And then I always thought maybe it had something to do with the dances, the kind of dancing that people did.
No, I don't think so.
It was more of the dress, you think? The way they
I think it was more the dress.
only women were only women flappers. Men weren't.
No, I think it was just the women.
Was it really a wild? Were the 20s really a wild time? Or was it a lot of fun living?
It was a lot of fun living. They were the I guess the dresses came shorter. See, the dresses were longer. Then the dresses came up not above the knees, but just below the knees.
Right.
They wore the long waist. They wear the long-waisted lines. I remember I had an evening dress like that with a long waist. They wore bands around their heads.
You did all this, right?
Yeah, they wore bands around their heads like this.
Right, and had the short hair.
Yeah.
Well, no, was that also the time of Prohibition? Prohibition was in the late 20s, right?
Yeah, Prohibition was around that time.
Did that affect you?
No, it never affected me
You
because
drank soft drinks.
I never was in that. No, it didn't affect me in the least. I can't say that it affected my family in any way at all.
No,
No.
not unless you went to bars or you went
No.
to dances
no.
where they drank or
No,
something like that.
no. I used to go. I went to some public dances, not much. To tell the truth, I really wasn't much of a dancer. My trouble was, I think I tried to lead instead of being led. You know what I mean?
Right.
I really wasn't too good of a dancer.
Right.
But I did go to dances sometimes, and but I had plenty of fun.
Well, you mostly, even after you're married, then you liked canoeing and camping. Were there other sort of hobbies that you had? Or did you like music, or did you enjoy reading back in those days, or
Not
you
as
just
much
were
as I do now.
you were just too busy to
Yeah, I
do
didn't.
a lot?
No.
What would you do for leisure time when you weren't working?
No,
There wasn't a lot of time.
I guess you mean Tip and I?
Yeah.
Well, we'd go to the movies. That was one thing. We'd like to go to the movies once in a while, you know. But to tell the truth, Diane, we didn't have too much money to do
Right.
anything with. You know, we took this trip. This was before Dorothy was born. In fact, she was along on the trip with us. She didn't know it, but this trip to Florida. And then
You drove down?
with Ida and Ray. That was a 2-week trip. And then we took other trips with them, and from then on we took trips with them and Bill. But we didn't do an awful lot, and then for a long while we didn't have a car. You know, we didn't have then the Depression came, and then that hit us, and from that time on, then we didn't.
Well, you were married by that time, and Mom was
Your
born.
mother was born.
She was a little girl.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
lived
she was
You
born.
lived on
on
Markley?
Oh, no. We lived in our big home, the one we built. On Markley Street,
On
yes.
Markley Street,
On Markley
okay.
Street, yeah, that's
When the
right.
Depression began.
Yeah,
And you were not working at
No,
this time.
no.
And Grandpa was working.
yeah.
And your mother was
She was with us.
with you. And then, well, tell me about those years.
Well, they were lean years, I will say, because your grandfather, we had money in the bank. We had money in the bank. We were going to put it on our mortgage. My mother had some money in the bank. And all of a sudden, we didn't have anything. The bank closed, and we lost it all. She lost every penny she had. We lost ours. We were going to put it on our mortgage. I think at that time we had maybe $1,000 or more, and at that time it was a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, well, the next time it came to pay our interest, we would put that $1,000 on our mortgage, and we didn't do it. We lost it. So, your father then, your grandfather then lost his job. He lost the money, and he lost his job. And I remember that so well. It was around Christmas time. Dorothy was only about, well, let me see, she wasn't a year old. And he lost his job. And he started out selling from door to door. Well, that didn't go very well.
What was he selling?
I think he was trying to sell carpet sweepers, like everybody does. And then one day he went in to see Eileen Scott. He had worked there before for a short time, and then he had left there to go to the bank. See, he was working at the bank when he lost his job.
Right.
And he just stopped in to see them. And Mr. Scott was living at that time, and he asked him what he was doing. He told him that he had lost his job. He said, "Would you like to come back here?" And Tip said, "Oh, he would." He said, "We need new blood here." He said, "You start." But he only started at $30 a week. So, you know. But anyhow, it was a lifesaver. So from that time on, then he worked there, and he worked there for 30-some years, 40-some years.
And you got rid of your car at that time?
Well, we didn't have a car. We had never had a car. No, we hadn't bought a car.
Right.
So, but then it was still hard going for us, but we were determined not to lose our home. So many people were losing their homes, and we didn't want to do that. And the woman that had our mortgage, it was a private person. She had bought our mortgage, and she reduced the rate. I forget at that time, maybe 6% or something, very low compared to what it is today. And she reduced it because she knew that things were hard for young people, and she reduced it. I forget how much, but she did. She reduced it, which helped. And then Mr. Slaughter, of course, was still friendly. I wasn't working at the time, but he was still friendly with us, and I dealt with him. I got my groceries from him.
Right.
And I remember him calling me up and telling me, he said, "How you making out?" And I said, "Well, we're doing all right." He said, "Well, now you forget your bills for your groceries." He said, "You be sure and pay your interest bills. Your interest. Don't lose your home." He said, "I don't want you to lose your home." He said, "You keep on." He said, "I'll carry you on down here until you can pay," which I thought was pretty good. He said, "I'll carry you on here as long as you want." So he did, but we paid him. But, I mean, we knew that we could get food,
Right.
you know.
You had food and
Yeah.
a house.
Yeah, we had. So we knew we'd be all right.
And that went over how many years?
Well, that went on until, of course, he started getting raises at work that helped. Well, we lived there until 48. We moved in from 48.
How did the Depression really affect any other members of your family? Do you recall any particular stories of how they handled it? Like
I don't
Uncle
think
Bill and Aunt
I don't
Emma,
think it hurt Em and Bill any. I don't think so. Oddly, of course, he didn't have any responsibilities, and he just had
Right.
jobs here and there anyhow as it was. So no, I can't say that it did. It might have helped. It might have hurt Eddie a little bit, because I know one time I had to help him out. I helped him out with rent one time when he came to me and asked me if I would help him, and I did.
Right.
But I don't think any other way. Of course, we took Mr. Light in. You've heard us speak of Mr. Light.
Yeah, that was. Mom mentioned that to me before I came over here.
Yeah.
She said, "Don't forget Mr. Lake."
Yeah. Well, he see these friends of ours, Wilfongs. Bill Wilfong worked at Greater Ford, and he knew this Mr. Light, and he said he needed a place to stay, to live, and he wondered if we would take him in. So we thought about it, and we did. We took him in, and it worked out all right, only that I often wonder if we did the right thing, because I think it was a little hard on Dorothy. I think maybe, I don't know. I think having that stranger at the table was a little hard on her. I kind of think so. I don't know whether it was worth it or not, but anyhow, he paid us he paid us $10 a week board for his room, and he ate his breakfast and his dinner Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, I guess. Saturday and Sunday, he's never there. We never had him for a weekend. And he paid us $4, I think, a month's rent for the garage. We had a car.
Was he a nice person?
No. No,
He was an older person?
Yes, he was a widower. He had grown sons. And he was not a nice person. He was very, very out. My sister said to me, "How you put up with it, I do not know." Because there were times when he'd sit at that table, he would not open his mouth once to us. And one time...
so the whole family
yeah,
was sitting
my
on the
mother,
table and he...
Yeah. We'd sit talk amongst ourselves, and he would never say anything. I don't know. He was just a... He said one time he was an embittered person. He said, I have always lived behind walls. And he said, I guess it's made me the way I am. He was brought up in where's that home in Philadelphia for children?
I think it's called I knew some people that went to that one too.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So he had no parents?
He was brought up there. Then he worked at Greater Sport, and he was behind walls.